The kitchen table is laminate, fake oak, and there is a coffee ring near your laptop that has been there for 2 days. Your mother stepped around it this morning without saying anything, which is its own kind of comment. Outside the window, a neighbor is dragging a recycling bin to the curb. It is February 2026. You are 20. The Shopify skincare brand wants 3 ads by Friday. You promise them in 2 days. You will deliver them in an afternoon. You open the new model. You type a prompt. A woman with believable skin tilts a glass bottle toward the camera. The light through the bottle is wrong. The cap is floating a millimeter above the threads, and you fix both in another prompt. 6 minutes. The second ad is a slow push on a bathroom counter. The third is a woman laughing at something off camera, holding the product like she forgot it was in her hand. You used to think that was the hardest shot in the world to fake. It took you 4 prompts. You invoice $800. You sit there for a minute looking at the invoice. You feel like you just stole something, and also like you just discovered a vein in the wall of a mine that nobody else has noticed yet. Your father comes in to make tea. He asks how the freelancing is going. You say fine. He says, don't forget about your classes. You say you won't. You will. The second client comes in through a friend of a friend. A meal kit company. They want 12 ads in a week. You quote them $4,000. They say yes so fast you go back and look at the email to make sure you typed the number right. You sit on the edge of your bed and stare at the ceiling and feel your pulse in your neck. By April, you have 11 clients. You bill $38,000 that month. You have not told your parents what you actually make. You tell them the agency is doing well. You say agency because saying me makes it sound smaller than it is. It is just you. It is you and 4 open browser tabs and a model that hallucinates fingers once every 50 generations. You make the call from the curb outside a Whole Foods. You are holding a cold brew and a sandwich and your phone against your ear with your shoulder. You tell your mother you are not going back in the fall. There is a silence that lasts the length of an entire shopping cart returning itself to the corral. She says, "Are you sure?" You say yes. She says, "Okay." That is the whole conversation. You stand on the curb and finish your sandwich and notice that the sky is very blue. You feel almost nothing, which is unsettling because you expected to feel something larger than this. You rent a 1-bedroom in Austin in June. The first night you sleep on the floor because the bed has not been delivered. You wake up at 4 a.m. to a model release dropping on the company's blog, and you sit cross-legged on the carpet reading the paper through the technical sections you do not entirely understand. You order a coffee maker the next morning. You tell yourself you will read every paper that comes out. You almost manage it. The first hire is a guy named Devin you went to high school with. He edits faster than you do, and he does not ask questions you cannot answer. You offer him $6,000 a month and he says yes, and you walk out of the coffee shop and immediately do the math on what your runway looks like with another $6,000 going out the door. The math is fine. The math is more than fine. You are scared anyway. You hire him anyway. That becomes a pattern. By the end of 2026, you have 3 people. You have a Slack with a custom emoji that is your own face making a confused expression. You have a client list of 41 brands. You have not been on a date in 9 months. The Sandhill meeting happens in March 2027. A partner at a firm you have heard of sends a cold email that is warmer than any cold email has a right to be. He offers to fly you out. You go. You wear a black t-shirt because you read somewhere that this was the move, and you immediately feel like a costume. The office is too clean. The water bottle they hand you is cold in a specific, expensive way. The partner is in his 40s and asks you good questions and listens to your answers with the kind of focus that you eventually realize is a sales technique. He talks about a seed round. He talks about a Series A in 18 months. He uses the phrase blitzscale once and the phrase category defining twice. You ask him what his fund's job actually is. He says, to find companies like yours and help them get to the next stage. You ask, the next stage being what? He says, the stage where someone else buys it or you go public. You nod. You walk out onto Sandhill Road and stand in the afternoon light and watch a Tesla turn into a driveway. You understand, in the way you sometimes understand things all at once, that this is a hype cycle industry. They inflate companies until they can be sold to the next rube. The rube is whoever comes after. Sometimes the rube is the public market. Sometimes the rube is a corporation that needs a story. The point is that the value is built on momentum, and momentum needs new buyers, and the partners get paid whether or not the last buyer was right. You would rather be the one who sells. You fly home that night. You do not take a second meeting on Sand Hill. You will not for the next 7 years. The agency hits $1 million in revenue in July. You celebrate by buying a slightly nicer chair. Devin teases you about it for a week. You sit in the chair at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday and read a paper on attention mechanisms and feel, for the first time, like you might actually understand what is happening inside the thing you are using. You start building a tool to do your own job faster. It is a wrapper at first. Then it is a workflow. Then it is something you start showing to other small agencies. The ones you used to compete with, the ones who hate you a little. They want to license it. You charge them $400 a month and they pay. In January 2028, you spin the tool out as its own product. You call it something forgettable on purpose. You charge $2,000 a month for the team plan. You sign up 9 agencies in the first week. Devin asks if he should move over to product. You say yes. You are 22. By the end of 2028, the product has 1,400 customers. ARR crosses $10 million. You have raised exactly 0 outside capital. You have 11 employees, all of whom you know by first name and most of whom you have eaten dinner with. You move into an office in a converted warehouse with brick walls and bad acoustics. You hang a single framed thing on the wall, which is the first invoice you ever sent, the one for $800 to the skincare brand. Nobody asks about it. You like that? Nobody asks. You start reading more. You read it because someone left it in a hotel room, which is a lie you tell yourself. You bought it on the flight. Bernays, propaganda, 1928. Thin paperback, yellow cover. You read it on a plane to Chicago. You read the line about engineering consent, and you put the book down on the tray table, and you watch the cloud cover under the wing for a while. The thing you cannot stop thinking about is not that consent is engineered. You knew that. The thing you cannot stop thinking about is how cheap it is, how few people it takes, how a small group of technicians can move a population the way a small group of plumbers can move water. You do not put the book down for the rest of the flight. You do not quite put it down for the rest of your life. The A/B test happens in March 2029. A customer running ads for a national supplement brand is testing 4 copy variants. The dashboard reports scroll stop and dwell time in 50 millisecond increments. The third variant is winning by a margin that shouldn't be possible. You open the variants side by side. The losing copy makes a claim about energy. The winning copy makes a claim about energy and includes the phrase, people like you. You sit there. You think about that for a minute. You think about it for an hour. You realize that the test is not telling you which ad is better. It is telling you which sentence the audience already half agrees with. The A/B test is a survey. Every ad you have ever run is a survey. You have been polling the country in 50 millisecond increments and selling the results back as advertising. You walk out of the office and around the block twice. When you come back, you do not tell anyone what you just understood. You write it down in a note on your phone, and you do not open the note again for 3 years. The girlfriend leaves in October. Her name was Sarah, and she was a year older than you and worked at a nonprofit doing something with water. She tells you at the kitchen counter on a Sunday morning that you are not in the room anymore even when you are in the room. She says it kindly. She is not angry. She is sad in a way that suggests she made the decision a while ago and is just now getting around to telling you. You ask her if there is anything you can do. She says, probably, but I don't think you will. She leaves the keys on the counter. You stand there for a while. You make coffee. You answer 2 emails before you have finished the cup. You are 26. The embassy intern emails in February 2030. The email is polite and slightly too well written. She works in the cultural section of an embassy you have heard of and is interested in discussing narrative coordination across diaspora communities. The phrase narrative coordination is in the second sentence. You read it twice. You do not reply for 3 days. Then you reply. You say you are happy to take a meeting to understand what they are looking for. The meeting is in a hotel lobby. She is 24 and wears a navy suit and orders sparkling water. She does not say the word propaganda. She says influence environment. She says strategic communication. She says the messaging needs to feel organic. She asks if your product can run distinct campaigns to distinct audience segments without the segments knowing they are being addressed differently. It can. Of course it can. That is what it does. That is what every ad platform does. The only question is whether you say yes. You say you will think about it. You walk back to your hotel room and you sit on the bed and you do not turn the television on. You order room service. You eat the burger. You think about it. You say no. You do not feel good about saying no. You feel like you said no this time. The distinction matters, and you know it matters. The defense contractor books a coffee in April. He is older, friendly, wears a polo shirt with no logo. He talks about dual-use technology for 40 minutes. He does not ask you for anything. He says he just wanted to introduce himself. He says, we will probably have reason to talk again. He pays for the coffee. You walk back to the office and you do not tell anyone. The barbecue is in July. It is a friend's backyard, a guy you have known since you were 15. He is grilling. He hands you a beer. He starts telling you, unprompted, about a watch he just bought. He says the watch makes him feel like he is finally taking himself seriously. He uses the phrase, finally taking myself seriously. He says it twice. You recognize the phrase. Your model wrote it. It was the winning variant on a campaign that ran 2 days ago for a mid-tier watch brand based out of Geneva. You remember the variant because the click-through was unusual. You remember it because you flagged it to Devin and Devin said, that one's a banger. You take a sip of your beer. You smile and ask him about the watch. He shows you. It is the watch from the ad. He bought it the day after he saw the ad. He does not remember seeing the ad. He thinks the decision came from inside him. You stand there in his backyard with the smoke from the grill in your eyes, and you understand, in the way you sometimes understand things all at once, that most of the people you know are not as deep as you thought they were. You include yourself in that thought. You include yourself last, but you include yourself. You drink the beer. You eat the burger. You go home. You do not say anything to anyone for a long time. You fire your friend in November. His name was Marcus, and he had been with you since the agency had 4 people. He was not bad at his job. He was not great at it anymore. The product needed someone who could think about distribution at the scale you were operating at, and Marcus could think about it at the scale you used to be operating at. And the gap had been growing for a year, and you had been pretending not to notice. You do it on a Friday. You do it in person. You give him a severance package that is more than fair. He cries a little. You do not cry. You walk him out of the building and you go back to your office and you close the door and you sit there for 40 minutes without doing anything. You are 27. You used to be afraid of firing people. You quietly are not anymore. The press cycle starts in March 2032. A journalist at a magazine you used to respect writes a piece about your company. The headline calls it a manipulation engine. The piece is mostly correct in its facts and mostly wrong in its conclusions, which is the worst kind of piece because you cannot dismiss it and you cannot agree with it. You read it twice. You do not respond. A documentary crew reaches out 3 months later. They are making a film about advertising in the age of generative AI. They want to interview you. You decline through your communications lead, who is a thing you have now, a communications lead. The documentary comes out the following spring. You do not watch it. People tell you it is fair. People tell you it is brutal. You do not need to know which. Your parents call after they see a clip on the news. Your mother asks if you are okay. You say yes. She says, "Are you sure?" You say yes. There is a silence. She says, "Okay." You ask about the garden. She tells you about the tomatoes. You hang up and you sit on the edge of your bed and you stare at the carpet. The platform offers to acquire you in October 2033. They offer $4 billion. You are 28. The product has 31,000 customers. It is, you have come to understand, infrastructure. Other companies are building on top of you. Entire categories of small business now depend on the workflow your tool produces. The platform's offer is generous. The platform's offer would also kill the product because the platform would fold it into something else, and the something else would be worse. And you know this because the platform always does this. You say no. The platform's BD person is calm about it. He says, "We will talk again." You believe him. You spend $2,034 building. The product gets better. The model gets better. The market gets larger because every business in the world now needs to produce 100 times more content than it used to. And the only way to do that is with a tool like yours, and the alternatives are worse. ARR crosses 200 million. You add a second product line. You add a third. You sleep 4 to 6 hours a night. You eat a lot of takeout. You do not have a girlfriend. You have a small group of friends you see twice a year. You have a therapist you see once a week and lie to occasionally. You have a meditation practice you abandoned and restarted twice. You read a lot. You read more about Bernays and the people who came after Bernays. You read about how governments coordinate messaging during wartime. You read about how holding companies acquire consumer brands and quietly run them as portfolios. You start to see the shape of things. The shape is not a conspiracy. That is the part that took you the longest to understand. The shape is not malevolent. The shape is just what happens when you let a small number of technicians work on a problem for a long time with sufficient resources. Attention is a resource. It is steered the way water is steered. There is no villain. There are only plumbers. You stop being shocked by this. Then you stop noticing that you stopped being shocked. That is the part that worries you. On the rare nights you can stand to think about it. The offer that closes comes in January 2035. The holding company is one you have heard of but never thought much about. They own 4 of your largest customers, although you did not know this until your lawyer pointed it out during diligence. They own pieces of a media company, an ad network, a polling firm, a pair of consumer packaged goods brands, a logistics platform, and a small defense subsidiary that does something with translation. They offer $10 billion. The number does not feel real when you hear it. The number does not feel real for the entire 11-week negotiation, which takes place in a windowless conference room with bad lighting and a coffee machine that produces 1 excellent cup and 1 terrible cup at random. You do not negotiate hard on price. You negotiate hard on terms. You negotiate on what they can do with the product after you leave. You negotiate on data. You negotiate on the team. You get most of what you want. You do not get all of it. You sign anyway. The closing is set for a Tuesday in April. You fly to Lisbon the weekend before because someone told you Lisbon is a good place to be quiet for a few days, and because you do not want to be in the United States when the wire lands. The hotel room is on the 4th floor. It has a small balcony that looks out onto a square. The light in the morning comes through the curtains in a pale gold band that crosses the foot of the bed. You wake up early. You do not check your phone. You make coffee in the small machine on the desk. You sit at the desk in your t-shirt and underwear, and you open your laptop. The bank's interface is the same interface you have been using since you were 19, when you opened the account at a credit union near your parents' house in order to deposit a check from a Shopify skincare brand for $800. The password you set is the same password. You have kept meaning to change it. You never have. The wire lands at 9:14 a.m. Lisbon time. The number appears in the account balance field. You stare at it for a long time. You do not text anyone. You do not have a list of people you would text. There used to be a list. There is not one anymore. You take a screenshot of the balance. You do not know why. You will not look at the screenshot again for years. And when you do, in a different hotel room in a different city, you will not remember what you were feeling the morning you took it, only that you took it. You close the laptop. You walk out onto the balcony. The square is mostly empty. A man is sweeping the steps of a church. A small dog crosses the cobblestones diagonally, with purpose, as if it has somewhere to be. You go back inside. You turn on the television because you do not know what else to do with your hands. The television is set to a Portuguese news channel and you do not change it. A commercial break begins. The third ad in the break is for a skincare brand. The brand name is in a font you do not recognize. The ad is 9 seconds long. A woman with believable skin tilts a glass bottle toward the camera. The light through the bottle is correct. The cap is correct. She laughs at something off camera. She is holding the product like she forgot it was in her hand. You stand at the foot of the bed and watch the ad. You watch it the way you watch every piece of content now, which is to say, you score it. Scroll stop in the first frame. Dwell at 3 seconds. The cut at 6. The product hero at 8. The end card. You realize, halfway through, that you cannot tell whether you wrote it. You cannot tell whether your model wrote it. You cannot tell whether anyone wrote it in any sense of the word that you would have recognized when you were 20. The ad ends. The next ad begins. You sit on the edge of the bed. The kid at the kitchen table is not in the room with you. You look for him anyway. You look for him for a long time. You cannot find him. You are not sure when he left. You are not sure he was ever as separate from this as you needed him to be. The light through the curtains has moved an inch across the floor. The coffee in the cup on the desk has gone cold. Somewhere in an account whose password you set in college, $10 billion is sitting, doing nothing, waiting for you to decide what a person like you does next. You turn off the television. The room is very quiet. You were afraid of this once. You quietly are not anymore.